Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, Ricky.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you. It's good to see you all.
So I am so excited to have you here, and I want to thank you for allowing us to ask you some questions and ask you questions again. um, Due to all the technical difficulties, I think it was really important to ensure that we had our deaf panelists answers very clear so that when individuals are rewatching this call, they're able to get a very clear perspective of your answers as well as have an ASL interpreter and have them very clear. So I am Zabora, Zibora. Sign name is this. So how are you doing today?
Ricky here. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here today. My sign name is an R on the temple because my name is Ricky Harris, and the R moves down into a Y shape. And it's fantastic to be here with y'all again.
Can you bring your camera down just a little so that your hands kind of keep getting cut off? So I want to make sure that everything is great. Yeah, like robot, like stay in the frame. Yeah. Sometimes your hands were going like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, do a little Vogue, do a little Vogue.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing today. No, Ricky, no, we are serious. We are talking about voting. We are talking about putting Kamala Harris in office. So, that's what these questions are about. All right. So our person that is going to be the hostess with the mostest today is Cassidy. And we are here with disabled voters for Harris. And so Cassidy, take it away.
Hello, my name is Cassidy Ricky. It is amazing to be in your presence again. Well, your Zoom presence, I guess, again. My name is Cassidy Huff. I am a white woman with about shoulder length, chest length, blonde hair, and brownish blonde hair, I guess. I have black glasses on. I also have a pale baby blue shirt with a gray sweater over the top of it. And my background is blurred because of my wild one-bedroom apartment behind me. So I am very excited to be interviewing you again, Ricky, with all of our tech figured out now. So I guess we will just jump right in. The first question I would love to ask you is what makes you feel empowered when you vote?
Ricky here. That is a great question. But before I get started, I want to give you my visual description as well. I'm a white man. I have a blue polo shirt on. Um, it's got a little collar and buttons. This is my formal room. So I've got a bunch of art and pictures on the wall behind me. Now back to your question, Cassidy. When I vote, what makes me feel empowered? I care about my disabled rights, my communication access, all of the disabled community, regardless, deaf, hard of hearing, people with different disabilities. We're all in one community and we have those rights and we have to take care of those. We have to watch out for them. I can't imagine giving somebody else who doesn't know anything about it the ability to take away our civil rights. I want to vote for somebody who's going to become our nationwide, worldwide advocate for people with disabilities, so to speak. And that's my number one reason. Now, other than that, I do have several other reasons. I vote to show the numbers of how many people here in the US, for funding reasons, obviously, like for vocational rehab services, for educational services, K through 12 schools, universities, to show how many people with disabilities there are in our local region for that kind of funding as well. And I also want to vote to show the numbers. Well, honestly, I have so many reasons. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but I'm not. But when I have the vote, I feel empowered, and I absolutely plan to vote.
Yes, I love that. We need everybody to plan to vote. That is the absolute most important thing. And that is a fantastic segue to my next question. How'd you know? My next question is, what is something disabled people may not know about voting?
Well, Ricky here, let's see. In my advocacy services working with the deaf and hard of hearing community, many of them don't realize that they have the right to communication access at polling stations. They can ask for an interpreter, whether that's maybe a remote interpreter, VRI, video remote interpreter, that's an option. There's different supports that you can give, that you can receive, but you have to ask. If you just come in and you're like waving at people and kind of wandering around, they're not going to help you. You have to be able to say, I'm deaf. What do you have that can support me? You have to be willing to be vulnerable and say, I'm deaf. And it's beautiful. It's not like a bad vulnerable thing. It's saying, hey, I'm deaf. And people realize then they become aware that you have this identity. Oh, you have a disability, you have a hearing loss. Oh, all these things. You have to show people who you are and what you need. And that leads to those people at the polling stations now realizing, oh, what kind of resources do we have? What kind of accommodations do we have? What can we provide? And they get that training. Once they recognize that I'm deaf, then after that training, they can bring in a video remote interpreter, for example. Like recently I went to vote and they actually had a video remote interpreter there. I live here in Harris County. I live in the Houston area, and I just love it. It was amazing to have that there, that they knew that. And so it was a successful tactic saying, hey, you've got to go vote, y'all in the deaf community, and you have to ask for your accommodations. You have to tell them that you're deaf and ask for what you need. And so I suggest that people call, ask for accommodations in advance or where to find them. They could lead you to a specific polling place in your area. And so it does require a little bit of pre-planning, again, to call and find maybe the right place to disclose that you have a disability and that you need accommodations. So that's part of the voting plan. And I found that in my community, many people don't realize that. They just go to vote and they're like, oh no, there's no interpreter. You have the right to it, but you have to ask.
I think that is so important. I think you really hit it there. The self-advocacy part of all of this is incredibly important. And I think a lot of people just think it's going to be done for them. And unfortunately, we are still such a marginalized group, right? We're still such a minority, and people unfortunately don't think about accessibility or inclusivity at the polls for disabled people specifically. And whatever your disability might be, it might not be their first thought to automatically include you at the polls because they're not disabled, right? They're not deaf or disabled. So it's not at the forefront of their mind
Yes.
yet.
Yes, and Ricky here, I want to add something to that. Absolutely, Cassidy. So the last time I showed up and I said, hey, I'm deaf. And everybody there was stunned. They looked like deer in the headlights. They had no idea what to do. They were like frozen with fear. And I'm like, hey, hi, like we need to warm up this ice cold situation. And I know they're volunteers at the polling stations, but they had no idea what to do. And they were like looking at each other like, does somebody here know what to do? Does anybody know what to do? And there was a guy who came up and he waved at me and he waved at me to follow him. And they had VRI, they had a video remote interpreter set up. And so we know that there are volunteers there and we have to be a little patient. They may have started an hour ago. We don't know what their story is, the workers there. But we need to be able to self-advocate to lead them to bringing the accommodations in so that in the future, they're not frozen with fear. Of course, you know, somebody who is untrained could lead to ruining the whole process. So it's important to have that training and that exposure.
I agree. If we don't advocate for ourselves, then they won't know that we even exist. And then the inclusivity and accessibility will continue to not be there for other people, you know? So I really think that like one person speaking up for themselves and their community makes a world of difference, because then those volunteers are going to go home and they're going to tell their families, oh my gosh, today I met a deaf person, or today I met a disabled person, and I didn't even know this accommodation was an option, but here's how they were accommodated. And now all those people within that volunteer's family are also going to tell their friends and their family, and on and on and on, right? And so I think one person communicating and advocating for themselves, yeah, is like, it just makes an incredible difference. And it really just takes one person, right? And that's kind of what Disabled Voters for Harris is all about, is it just takes one person, or in this case, a group of individuals, to make a difference, to make our voices heard. And so again, I just want to thank you so much for being on this call and for being a part of our mission, because that's what we're all about, you know? So segueing into my next question, where can disabled voters and allies find information for their rights and resources?
Ricky here. Well, there are so many disabled organizations out there, anywhere, all over the place. For my local area, which is Houston, Texas, I don't know about y'all's areas, but I suggest that you comment, or you contact the AADP, the American Associations of Disabled Persons. Also, Rev Up is an organization, REVUP, Rev Up. They have a lot of informational resources. You can contact your state and local organizations who are involved with the disability community. For my area, again in Houston, I would contact the mayor's office for people with disabilities, and they would guide us to the right organization if we didn't know exactly who to contact. So your area may have that as well. There are many, many different people who are involved in disability advocacy who would be happy to guide you to the right places and the right resources. Of course, Googling is your best friend to find information. You could register in your area for your city or your county, and they'll lead you to some information as well. You could check with your case manager or your caseworker, your social worker, if you're going through VR or something, your physician maybe. Counselors, again, vocational rehab counselors, they could definitely guide you to some resources and to help you find that information. They would know a lot of that. For the deaf community, you may need to contact your state's deaf and hard of hearing services and say, hey, you know, where can I find my voter registration? How can I find voter information? And they can give you those resources as well, specifically for my deaf community.
And I would like to add here, and I didn't give myself a visual description earlier. So I am Zabora. I am a Black woman with short, black, brown kind of hair, light skin, brown skin woman with a black blazer and a blue shirt on. I would also say that we're gonna have resources on our website in the future that would be able to list some of those resources, whether it is accommodations and some of the accommodations that you can have, some of the listing of some of your rights, or some other resources that maybe we have found that just have fact sheets and things like that that may be located on our website in the future. So they're not there now, but in the next few weeks, you definitely can look to the Disabled Voters harris.com website, and we will have those there.
Zipporah, you read my mind with what I was about to say. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Zipporah. Yes, please go to our website. Hopefully by the time this is up, our website will also be up. We are working on making it as accessible as possible for everyone. So, Ricky, now I'm going to get into more of the personal questions. So my first question for you is, what is your personal voting plan?
Wow, my voting plan. I'm going to figure out where to go online and make sure that my voter's registration is still active. Make sure that the card I have is still good. I'm going to check and make sure that my driver's license, or again, if it's somebody else, your state ID is still good, hasn't expired yet. You want to make sure you have that. I'm going to find my local voting location. It's really just a few blocks from my house, but I'm going to find the address and make sure I know where to go. I'm going to call and make sure that they have an interpreter available of some sort. You know, you want to save your gas and your transportation time rather than just driving there. It's a good idea to find out first before you go there. And so that's my personal voting plan. If I were to convince my friends to vote, I would make sure that they have all of those things as well and they're ready to go and get in there and vote. Also, we have to look, I believe there is a resource where it lists for your platform that you're voting for. Do your homework. Don't just show up and vote and be like, yeah, I voted. No, you've got to do your homework. You've got to research. You got to know what the candidates support, who this guy supports, who that woman supports. You have to look at all those things first and compare and make sure that you're going to make the biggest impact positively on your personal life. For example, I'm a gay man. I really love my gay and lesbian community, and I want to make sure that whoever I vote for also supports that part of my life, that part of my identity. So you want to make sure that you do your research, that the candidates support what you believe, what is in your heart and what you know you want. And that's when you vote for somebody who believes in what you believe, and vote for that person for president. That's right.
Yes.
Said, period.
Zipporah said, period.
Ricky, yes, I want to add something as well. Many folks, I've noticed that their sign for Kamala is this. It's like a closed hand turning backwards into like 3 fingers. And that's because she has 3 different marginalized identities. She's a Black woman, she's an Indian woman, and she's a woman. And it's like a flower blooming. So Kamala is a flower blooming with these 3 parts of herself. And so that amplifies who she is as a person. Beautiful, Cassidy. And that is our future president, Kamala Harris. Yes.
Ricky, again, phenomenal segue into my last question for you. Why are you voting for Kamala Harris?
Ricky here. Ooh, well, let me think about it. She has an amazing character. She has a beautiful character, like just who she is. She's so friendly and warm. And when she speaks, of course, she was a lawyer, an attorney for the state, and she knows how to speak to get people's attention. She's going to be an amazing leader. She was an amazing leader in Congress and as vice president. Even with all the chaos in Congress and everything, she maintained her stoic character. She got things done. And so I want to see her as our leader. She'll be meeting people around the world, national leaders, and she can guide us through these new changes. I mean, it takes time to level up, right? We know that, especially with women, we know that. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to have a female president and to move up to that new level and to show the world that we are progressive and that we're getting better and we're capable of making these changes. And she's going to lead that and open up all these opportunities for people who have been in these marginalized groups. And so she's going to have everybody included. And that's what I'm looking for in Kamala. I think she's a perfect leader for us. She's a perfect president. And I'm looking forward to that being our future. And so that is why I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
Well, it wouldn't be me if I didn't throw a little fastball at you. You got your bat ready? You ready for some baseball? You ready? You ready? So my fast pitch, this was not on the list, but a lot of people have been asking us, how do we as disabled voters for Harris stand when it comes to policy and, what we're looking for and, what are we going to do to hold this administration accountable and really let them know our needs. So I really want to take the time and ask you, what kind of policies and legislation are you looking forward to from this administration? Recently, I emailed my senator. I hope you emailed your senator. And I complained and let them know how important it is to not reduce vocational rehabilitation funding, which they've already did multiple times, and it looks like they're doing it again. And for me, working with finding individuals that are deaf and hard of hearing employment, having those funds for that particular area is really, really important to me, and making sure that deaf and hard of hearing and individuals that have disabilities of all disabilities, especially our high school students, those that are transitioning from coming from their families to being independent, VR services is so important to me. So my question to you is, what is that piece of legislation or policy that you're looking forward to and you would like disabled voters for Harris to really advocate for you?
Oh, Ricky here. Well, there's so many things that I could think of. Man, so many things. First, for the deaf and hard of hearing group, not just that, but also deaf blind. We have many different subgroups in the deaf community, but for Kamala and Congress and senators and everything, I would love, love, love to see more deaf and hard of hearing involvement with with senators, with the senators and the House of Representatives and Congress, at the state level and at the federal level as well. I want to see more deaf and hard of hearing involvement because our voice is powerful and those people who are involved could speak up for us as a community. So I want to see more of that. Also with the United Nations, I want to see somebody there at the UN as an ambassador to work close to the United Nations, because we need improvements in education. We need to be screaming and crying out for more education. And so as we grow our groups, we'll increase recognition of sign languages. We need to increase that visibility by being there and being visible. I want to see somebody there as well who can sign fluently on the news. I would love to see a picture-in-picture interpreter on the news for that information. A lot of folks in our community aren't skilled at reading English as their first language. They may, and other folks too, with limited English proficiency. It can be a headache to try to read captions. And so to be able to see an interpreter somewhere, other countries have picture-in-picture interpreters on their news. England has that. France has a sign language interpreter on the news, and I would love to see that here in America. And we need that for informational purposes, preparing for an emergency, tornadoes, hurricanes. we must have that information accessible to us. Once that information is made accessible to the public, we need some kind of access to that information as well. And that's where a picture-in-picture interpreter would come in beautifully. So I would love to see that policy change and more legislation about that. I want to see those doors opening and being accessible to deaf and hard of hearing people. And so sign language is visible nationally on the TV screen. Again, not only that, but helping our community preparing for emergencies. Text message emergency notifications are too slow. The FCC is maybe not doing the best job with that. I want those warnings faster. I want them to be immediate. If there's an emergency, I need to know now. Like when I see the hearing community and the deaf community and I see who got the information first, I know it's not me. We get it a few minutes behind them and it's like, wait, there's an emergency, and it's sickening, right? So we need policies to address that and to make sure that once that information is released, it's released simultaneously so that we are all on a level playing field. And again, we need policies and legislation that impress upon us the importance of improving educational sources. Housing for the deaf and hard of hearing community, education, jobs, employment. We need more services for employment desperately, job training and coaching. So we need funding for VR. Oh my gosh, VR. There's so many, but I think the most important for us are the ones that I just threw out there. Communication access is the heart of all of that visual communication access. Yes. Hope that answers your question.
You definitely did. I think that, assistive technology and having access to that is also important. I think that 90% of deaf individuals are born and hearing parents. So having funding for those parental resources and educational resources, I've been doing a lot of work. My brother is deaf and I have ADHD. So just those individuals that have multiple disabilities, I've noticed that, it's just not much support there. And so we are constantly reducing the funding for these support areas. But I definitely agree with you. Those are all areas of major concerns. And I think that we can agree on all disabilities, that assistive technology and those resources, I've talked to a lot of chronically ill individuals lately, and they're all saying the same things. Voting is an option or a nicety for most people. But for some of our disabled friends and family members, voting is a way of life. It's a way of, if I can have medication, or if I'm not going to be able to have medication this administration, if I'm going to have insurance, or I'm not going to be able to have insurance this term. So I think that being able to identify that, there are so many different disabilities and that there are a lot of different needs, and that we're not monolithic. We're not just one size fits all, and our policy has to match that. And representation is important. I need people of color. I was thinking about parents that have children that are deaf. Where are the trilingual ASL resources? We have a lot of people of Hispanic culture and heritage here, but do we have places that are teaching American Sign Language in Spanish? It's so many things that we can talk about, and it's our soapbox. So I don't want to get on a deaf soapbox forever, because this is about all individuals with disabilities. But I wanted to thank you so much. Cassidy, do you have anything else to say?
I really don't. I just want to say,
Ricky. Oh, no, sorry, Cassidy. Do you want to go ahead?
no, I just wanted to say that I am hard of hearing and I'm learning about deaf culture. I wear a hearing aid and I am learning so much from the deaf community. And Ricky, just in our short interactions with each other, you have been teaching me so much about the resources that need to be provided to deaf individuals and deaf and hard of hearing people, and the resources that you were bringing up, the policy issues that you were just bringing up. I would have never even thought about that, and I am hard of hearing and I read lips 90% of the time. So I was listening to you and I was like, yeah, those are things that need to be implemented. Why have I never thought about those kinds of things? So I just want to thank you again, just like Zipporah was saying, for being here, for educating me, a hard of hearing individual. And thank you so much for being here again. Thank you for partnering with us and bearing with us through all of our tech issues last call. And I really appreciate you teaching me so much and being the representation that I needed to see when I was younger. So thank you.
So Ricky.
Oh, Ricky here. My honor. Yes.
How do we find you? If I want to find you, I want to know some information about this deaf stuff you're telling me about. If I want to know, tell me some things. Where are the resources? You said I want to chase you down. Are you on any social media? Like, can I find you? Or are you going to go back and hide in a shell or something?
Oh man, Ricky here. You absolutely can find me on Facebook under Ricky, RICKYD, my middle initial, Harris, HARRIS on Facebook. I do need some time to catch up with some of my responses. My Facebook is a busy page because I tend to be so available to talk to people and to educate people. And with that big audience, guiding people to the right organizations and the right people, you can find me there on social media on Facebook, again, under Ricky D. Harris.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. I love you. You know I love you.
Sure, absolutely.
I love you. Can't wait to see you in a week at the back to school thing. So
I love y'all too. Yes, oh, wow.
no.
Oof. Ricky here. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Autumn. Our interpreter has been wonderful. I just want to thank you so much.
No problem.